Welcome to the Life Rocks podcast. In this podcast, we explore how nature, science, education, and culture can benefit all children and future generations. This is a show for educators, parents, mentors, and anyone interested in making the lives of our children, families, and communities better. So sit back, take a breath, and enjoy the show. And now for your host, Asher Cloran.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Life Rocks podcast. I am here today with the wonderful Dougie Elliot. Dougie and I met at the Chek courses doing holistic lifestyle coaching together, and we both have a passion for health, and Dougie especially has a passion for helping out tradies, helping out people look at their bloods, helping people get their gut health, their hormone health in check. And all round is someone who's passionate in the space and is helping educate people and is helping coach them through their difficulties and getting to the root cause of their healing. So I'm stoked to have Dougie here today. How are you today, Dougie?
I'm doing really well, mate. Doing really well. Thanks for having me on, and I appreciate you getting me back on your channel to talk about some really cool topics that I think are important today.
Absolutely. I always love chatting to Chekies because, you know, we've got some of the same education, some of the same sensibilities. We look up to the same people like Paul Chek, obviously, and Joanna Rushton and all of our mentors within the Chek community. But what I like about Chekies is everyone's coming from a slightly different angle. Everyone's got their own experience in life that's led them there. So if you want to gift the audience a little bit of your journey and share with them what led you to become a health leader and be interested in helping people out in that department.
Yeah, okay. I grew up in a little town called Newstead. I grew up hunting, fishing, riding BMX bikes, doing all that. So I spent a lot of time out in the bush. I come from a single mother home. My mum, we had she had raised 4 kids, one brother, 2 sisters. So it was obviously always pretty chaotic, and mum was always highly stressed and stuff. So me getting out the bush and fishing and ferreting and hunting and all that was just my happy place. So I'd always be out in the bush, always BMX bikes and stuff.
Cool.
And then eventually we got older, and mum was like, "All right, I'm sick of driving the kids into town," because we lived about 20 minutes from town, Castlemaine.
Yeah.
So we ended up moving into Castlemaine, and as soon as I moved into Castlemaine, I started hanging around at the skate park, and then basically what led from that was I just started drinking from the ages of about 14, and then I got into drugs at the age of about 18, and then I hit that pretty hard, like alcohol and drugs and partying and gambling every weekend.
Yeah.
Until I was about 22.
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah. And then I basically I knew I wanted to get away from that life. I always felt a little bit different. I was always the one in the group that was like, "Oh, let's have a few weekends off and do something normal, like go to the beach or just not drink. Let's just not drink." And obviously being in that life and that crew you have, it's like it doesn't work. Everyone eggs you on, and it's just like you're back in square one. Spend all your money again. You worked a week, you spend all your money, and you're back in square one every single Monday. But then, so what I did to get away from that is I started boxing. So I had a mate of mine, Bowden. He was a boxer. He was really good, and he was training in Bendigo. And I was like, "Mate, I want to get into it. Take me up to the gym. You're right." So we did. We went up there. It was so nerve-wracking. It was great for my confidence as well. Started boxing, and then
was it one of those tough nut sort of gyms?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And it was
because just for people out there, there's martial arts gyms where everything's clean and everyone's polite and everyone's sort of, bowing to each other, and you're getting medals and that sort of thing. And then there's gyms where it's just sweat and pain and grunts.
This was sweat and blood and just and small and hot. Like it was tiny, and it was a shed with tin. It was this tin shed, middle of summer, and you're in there sparring, and you're sparring people that are way more experienced than you. So the confidence I built from that was incredible, and that was the confidence I needed to get away from that life, because I wasn't used to getting out of my comfort zone, because obviously, as you well know, Asher, we get stuck in that comfort zone where if you do anything that's unpredictable, that's very, I guess, threatening, or the ego sort of tries to bring you back into that comfort. But I pushed through that. And then I kept going to the gym. It was always nerve-wracking. And then I eventually started to get really good. I felt really good as well. I felt fit and I felt healthy. And then that was where basically I made the choice, to basically stop drinking and taking drugs. And then I'd go off the drink and the drugs for like literally, I think the first block was 2 months, which was crazy for me. And then I had a big weekend, and then I had like 6 months off. And then basically that's how I basically weaned off. And then I went away from that friend group as well, disconnected from them. Yeah. Basically, I was by myself. I didn't have any friends because I was come from that sort of group and lifestyle. And then I ended up mingling with some other people, and then I found another friend group that didn't do all that. And then that's where my journey basically started. And then I accidentally found Paul Chek. So after I've sort of gone away from that group, I found Paul Chek on YouTube, and I was like, that dude, he's like, he speaks really intelligently. He's ripped. But he's really blokey and manly. Like he swears and he trains hard, and he tells people to pull their finger out of their bum. And I was
not a soy boy, is he?
No. And I was like, this dude's awesome. So I just started watching all these YouTube videos, and then I eventually built up the courage to do holistic lifestyle coaching level 1. Yeah. And that was huge for me, because all through my growing up, I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I couldn't spell. I would have helpers with me all through school. There was a helper of mine, her name was Leslie Gleason. She just recently passed away, and that lady, it gives me goosebumps talking about it, because that lady, the support that she gave me through my young, like my early young manhood, was just incredible. She never gave up on me, and and it was just, she was an angel of a woman, and like, God bless her. Like, she was just, and she's just recently passed away, so that was really sad.
Oh, God bless her. And we need more teachers like that. Hey, it's
unreal. She helped me get my license. She always pushed me. She was the one that sat in the class with me and helped me in front of everyone. Amazing. Which was embarrassing as a young man, but that's what I had to do, because I didn't know really right. I eventually built up the courage to do the Chek course, and which was huge for me, because I was like, I don't do courses, I don't read, I don't do any of that. I like this, and ended up doing it and then finishing it, and I was like so happy. And then ever since then, I've basically just haven't stopped. I've just kept going, kept going.
Such a hero's journey, man. And I think it's really important for blokes to have mentors, have people to support them, have the right teachers, and then also make the right choices. And, you know, this journey that you describe, I think, is something that a lot of country fellas who have ever tried to escape the confines of maybe the claustrophobic sort of country culture, which can be very centered around drinking and some sort of yeehaw type attitudes, that it can be real hard to break. And, you know, I'm back now in the country after 4 or 5 years away, and there's still the same blokes down at the pub sitting on that corner wasting their life away. But then there's also the blokes that made a choice to do something different and walk a different path, and they're doing their thing too and progressing in there. So it's very much which path do you take in life sometimes. And Yeah, I really want to congratulate you for taking those steps to get out of your comfort zone. And that's all crucial stuff, hey, in the formation of becoming a man is kind of the struggle of it. Here we go. We've got two blokes out the back here struggling away.
Struggling on the barra.
On the barra. We know what that's like.
Yeah. 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 Thanks, mate. And yeah, it can be a long process sometimes. As you've just heard, it can take a long time, but the thing is, it's about consistency and not giving up, and then having that feeling within yourself, like you know that you want to do it and you need to change. So just do it. Like just keep 1 foot forward, you know. So
yeah, totally. And for the single mums out there, your boys need to struggle.
Yeah,
they need to struggle, and they need to be ideally put towards that struggle, rather than having to find it through the drinking and the drug culture, and then eventually that ends up, maybe if you get through the threshold, or if you don't, it can really, you know, bring you down.
And single mum homes too, they can almost destroy men too, because the mother ends up favoring the kids, because we were getting in trouble with the police, and the police would come up to the house and we'd sit down and they'd talk to mum. And she was like straight away on the defense, like, nah, he wouldn't have done that. Get out of my house. And I did it, like, but she was like straight away, the blinds come over her eyes, and it's just like, nah, protect my boy.
Right.
That leads to me going, I can just do whatever I want. I can get away with whatever I want. It can be quite damaging, actually.
Yeah, and you see that dynamic play out in the single mother household, because it's like they now have to be the everything, the dad and the mum in the sense.
Yeah.
But when too much of that energy is on them, they struggle with being harsh all the time, because they need their children to like them. So I think many single mums tend to lean towards that side of the fence where they pander to their children a little bit, because they're trying to be friends with them too, and that's more comfortable, but then it's sort of that leads to more like of a codependent relationship where the mum's trying to please the child by keeping them happy and safe, but then ultimately that leads to a form of like not growing, claustrophobia, or them child not having enough responsibility.
Exactly, and you don't grow either. Yeah, and there's no discipline. You don't get taught that much discipline. I didn't from my mother. Like, it was sort of free range, just do what you want.
Right.
Everything's all good, Dougie's, and
is where I think martial arts gives children discipline, and it gives them something to test all of that aggression on, where you can test aggression on someone who's better at boxing than you or better at wrestling than you, and where's it going to end up? Just with you in a chokehold. So you learn quickly through those arts how to apply force, what force means, what it means to hurt another person actually, for real, if you do. You know, so you learn all these nuances that they're usually the things that kids want to go and test if they're getting in fights, if they're getting wasted or whatever. They're trying to find boundaries. They're trying to find limits. So honestly, put them in a martial arts class and with some other good fellas, and make them go.
Yeah, 100%.
Because they're going to learn those lessons faster than you could ever teach them, especially if you're a mother or a woman who's got a philosophy that's a little bit anti-violence and a little bit like, oh no, I don't want my boys to get hurt. You are the mum who has to send your boys there even more so, because you are going to mess them up, and you're not going to allow them to experience that side of being a man, right?
Yeah. And what I learned in the boxing gym in 2 months was, it's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And unless you sort of get it, you don't get it.
No, exactly. And the confidence, like, when I learned how to fight, I didn't actually want to fight when I was out, not at the gym or anywhere out. You know, if I ever went out, I would want to get in the fight. Like, I just, because you don't need to prove anything, because you know you can fight. You know, you can protect yourself. You know, you can look after yourself.
You know what it means as well.
Yeah,
I found that as well. Like in high school, would get in fights bullies would pick on me or whatever, target me, I'd always fight back the bullies. I was that kind of kid, I guess. But it would still happen, you know. And even at uni, like, had my drink spiked and got ganged up by a bunch of dudes one night, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And these instances stopped happening once I became trained. And I would be the one breaking up the fights, because you sense it straight away. You sense that tension in the air. And if I'd be in a venue or whatever, suddenly I'd be the one up whispering in the big guy's ear who's about to blow his lid and just going, you know, don't do it, bro. It's all good. And like that other presence of other men around that obviously know how to scrap a bit, it keeps everything in check in an environment. And there's been multiple instances where that training has allowed me to diffuse a situation, not even allow it to escalate to violence.
Which is good.
Yeah. Dougie, you had a very vulnerable and real experience one time, and we don't have to keep this on the podcast, but I do want to hear a little bit about you, because these themes all tie together, where you were in the bush and you found a young man who'd taken his life, and you were one of the last fellas to see him.
Yeah, I actually witnessed it. Yeah.
And you know, men are struggling in this world, and young fellas are struggling in this world, and they have the highest suicide rate out of anyone. Can you share a little bit maybe of that experience in an outline, and then how that's impacted you and your thinking around men's health, mental health?
Yeah, I can go into that. So I went for a swim. I think it was Sunday. It was a beautiful day. I went to the my mother. We always used to catch up and go for a swim together. So I did that. On my way home, I always go through this little bush section because I let my dogs out and they run behind the car. And then I got to this section of the hill where you come around to the right and you go up this really steep hill. And as I come around the corner, as I was going up the hill, this young kid, it looked like he was wearing a had a dog leash, just cruising like that, walking around. He's just had it there, just like, you know how you walk with a dog lead sometimes, just holding two ends.
Yeah, it's hold on each end.
Yeah. And as I come around the corner, he literally just went straight up into the bush really quickly. And I kept driving past. I looked at him and I kept driving past. He didn't look at me. And then I got to the top of the hill, which was only probably 80 meters up. And I just stopped and I was like, what? Like, that felt really weird. I'm like, where was his dog?
Yeah.
He had no dog. The way that his body language was very strange. So anyway, I stopped and I came back around and I just drove back down to probably only about 50 meters. And then I got out the car, walked over the crest, and then I seen him still walking, just cruising. And he yelled out like, "Are you?" Oh, like, oh, okay. He might just be annoyed. He's had an argument with someone and he's just trying to get some space.
Yeah.
It felt, my body felt weird though. I felt I had this weird feeling. I had this really weird feeling. It wasn't normal. Yeah. And then anyway, I drove back down. Yeah. And I drove back down to the bottom of the hill, which is probably another 50 meters. Did a U-turn, so I was just going to go back up the hill and go home.
Yeah.
Normal. As I got to the bottom of the hill, I could see him directly up the hill, climbing up a tree with the rope.
Yeah.
And then in that moment, I was like,
yeah,
oh my God, this is happening. That feeling was of weirdness. I'm like, and then, so anyway, I flew up the hill to hit that same height where I walked over.
Yeah.
And basically, when I come over the crest of the hill, he was hanging from the tree.
Shit, man.
And I moved forward. I don't know how far forward. I didn't go up to him, but I went forward a bit more because I thought I might have been able to like save him, but he was gone, and I stopped, and then I was like, it's such a weird feeling when something like that happens. Like, it's hard to describe, like the feeling, like you don't know, like you can't believe it just happened. You know, you're in shock, it's all these things that happen. So I ran back to the car, and I flew, turned around again, had to go back up, turn around again, and then I drove out the bush so quick. And so I went to the first house, and I basically was like in so much shock, knocking on this door. And then the people that were there went up to Lock. His name was Lockie, the kid. He's 14. His name was Lachlan, and he they said he died straight away. With the way he jumped out. And then that just seeing him hanging out of a tree with a net and like a rope around his neck, and seeing it all too, because I could see him like from driving up the road. I could see it all. Like,
and you saw it.
He was wearing a blue t-shirt. That is just it was one of the most messed up things I've ever witnessed, and and the timing of me coming around that corner and seeing him was just I really was hard on myself for a bit, because I was like, I wish I went over to him and just went actually closer to him when he spoke to me and told me to bug off. Why didn't I just go over? I didn't listen to that feeling inside my body that was like, no, you should go over and actually just talk to him, see if he's okay. And then I later found out that he was severely depressed. He had a foster mother. He tried to do it before. And that day where the cops were actually looking for him, and his mum was looking for him when all this was happening. So she knew something was going to happen, but they couldn't find him, and I ended up driving past him, and then it all unraveled. It happened so quick, like he didn't even hesitate. He literally just went to the tree and was in the tree, and then he was out the tree. And he knew I was there. My car, he knew I was there to was coming. I was going to come assist, and he just was out of the tree.
He was like quick.
Yeah, it was so quick. And then after that, I was it was that was crazy.
Those feelings of guilt and self-analysis always come up around people who, if we were close by, or suicides or that sort of thing. So how do you think that experience has influenced your own path, your own feelings around mental health and depression? And because for me to even think that a 14-year-old guy has no options, that he in his mind is thinking, I've got no choices left, that are worth making in life. That's very sad. And that's something that it affects us all, in the world.
It was one of the saddest things I've ever experienced. And like you just said, a 14-year-old boy has made up his mind that he is going to go jump out of a tree with a rope around his neck. At that age, he made up his mind up, obviously that strongly, that was going to happen that day. There was no like, this dude might be coming over to help me. I might not do it. Or he was just like, he was so certain about it. And that's like, that is mental to think about. Mental. Like when I was 14, I was just in town. We just sort of moved into town. And I just slowly was getting into drinking then. And I was on my BMX bike a lot. I was still about the bush a lot. I had no, there was nothing like that ever. I thought to myself, like, I'm depressed. I want to hurt myself or anything. Like, it's just, it was horrible. But the more I got into health, the more I always think about that day, and the more it's just driven me to want to help people, not just young boys or men, everyone. Like I don't really have a niche per se, like where people just work with men. Say I work with men over 30. I work with men from this age to that age. I only work with this sort of men. I work with everyone. I work with old women, young women, old men, young men.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that vulnerable story. And I know, you know, there's always deep feelings behind those things. And I've had personal close friends who've taken that path around the age of 18, 19, multiple attempts, and the sort of childhood that this fella had. You know, one of my good mates from high school was raised on a diet of shit foods, so fully processed foods, Fruit Loops, Nutrigrain, frozen dinners, whatever. Mum was buying him cigarettes from the age of 13, on Ritalin, ADHD, fucking psychiatric medication from the age of 8. And then that scales once you've got Ritalin and your ADD. Well, now eventually that builds up in your system, and one day you have a psychotic episode because you're feeling so anxious. Well, now you're on antipsychotic meds as well. And then if you're on antipsychotics for a while, eventually you're going to pop on those things too, because they'll tamp down your thing. And now you're on tranquilizers and things to sleep. By the end of close to the end of his days, my friend came to visit, and he said to me, the doctors have said that if I get off my medication, I will die, that my heart will stop. That was what he had been told by the doctors. There's no chance that you can get off all of your meds. And I cooked him a meal, and he said it was the best meal he'd ever eaten in his life, you know, and that was when I was getting into whole foods and going down the healthy path and all of that myself, because, yeah, I'd turned away from, you know, a debaucherous university lifestyle that was going to make me depressed and make me sad and make me not feel like I had any options. And that, you know, that's where I'd gotten to, but I'd also had enough love and enough mentors, enough experience in my life that I knew there was another pathway out of the darkness, you know, and also because I'd experienced mates go there myself, I'd vowed in my heart never to do that, and that there's always another way. That's very at the heart of my philosophy about life, is that we've always got choices to make, and that spirituality isn't a passive process. Like, we don't just have to accept destiny or accept, you know, our lot from God or something like that. In fact, we're here to participate in creation, be a creator, make choices that move us closer towards that sense of spirit.
Yeah, it's sad to hear about you, mate, and that's what you just explained. That is very common.
Yeah, far too common, and more and more common over the past 10 to 20 years, I might add.
Yeah.
And then isolation things like COVID and everything have sped it up again. And yeah, we've got to be the counterculture. You know, people like yourself, myself, men and women who care, appreciate health and mental health, and looking out for each other and all that sort of thing. Yeah,
you're spot on there. And just with the mental health side of things, like anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, all these neurological type of disorders.
Yeah,
I've read many papers on this, and what they've found is that basically their brain is severely inflamed. Like, if people don't know, there's the vagus nerve, so there's the gut to brain axis, which is like bidirectional, both communications back and forth. They send each other the messages, and obviously this is where a lot of issues can arise, and this is why inflammation can build up in the brain. Things like these microglia cells get turned on, which are immune cells in the brain, and then they just basically there's a cascade, or these pathways like NF-kappa B. These are like pro-inflammatory pathways and most of the blood-brain barrier breaks down. you've basically just got this whole cascade of chaos happening in your brain. And this is what's driving a lot of these things as well. So, and this could be coming from poor diet. Like,
yes.
So that's why you hear so many people, right?
Yeah, we're going to touch now on your zone of expertise and the brain and gut connection. Like, this is so fundamental to understand when it comes to mental health, but 95% of the world have it completely wrong. So yeah, please go into some of how, like, people go, oh yeah, my gut affects my health, but they don't get the full scale depth of it. And maybe why aren't people putting this together, and what's sort of the simplest way that people can experience this? Like, I've experienced it, going from fully processed food to just stopping that, and instantly the mental health is better. But what are you suggesting that people do to start to experience this for themselves?
Better mental health, you mean, Asher?
Yeah, and to understand the totality of it. Like, people hear that meme of your gut health is your brain health, or, you know, your gut health impacts your mental health. But when does it really click for people, and what do you think are the fundamental understandings that really drop this in for you and that you notice makes it make sense for other people?
So you could have healthy gut lining, right? And all of a sudden you have a big head knock. So you get you might get knocked out, you might get concussed.
Okay.
You might even experience a car accident. And then the base of your brainstem, where like these nerve plexus are, like vagus nerves and cranial nerves, to do with chewing, swallowing, they're autonomic as well. So then you've got concussed, you've been knocked out, and now your brain is basically inflamed and injured, and then these cranial nerves at the base of your brainstem, especially the vagus nerve, is now compromised. So then this will slowly start to manifest digestive issues, because that's to do with like chewing, swallowing. This is the vagus nerve, the release of enzymes as well within your salivary glands, because when you put food in your mouth and you start to chew it, this is where the digestive process really starts, because the food gets coated in like immunoglobulins and like enzymes like amylase and lipase. Yeah, you're right. Yep. And then so the food's coated in all the saliva and amylase and immunoglobulins and all these digestive enzymes. And then now the stomach's turning on as well, starting to pump out this hydrochloric acid from the parietal cells and getting ready for that. And then the food gets into the stomach, and then the food gets covered in hydrochloric acid, that acidity. And then as it moves on into the small intestine, the acidity stimulates the pancreas, which releases more enzymes, and then the acidity as well from the food stimulates the gallbladder, which once again contracts. The gallbladder contracts and releases bile. So all this is happening just from like you smelling your food, you chewing your food, and then all this is turning on, going down. Okay, so and a lot of this, the motility stuff as well, like if you have a damaged vagus nerve, that you could actually have a really big problem with like motility, like the food moving down, and if you're not getting this enzymatic release and you're not getting saliva in your mouth, you have dry mouth, then you're not going to digest your food well. You're going to eat the food, it's going to go through, not broken down, and then once the food's not broken down, you sort of, or especially proteins and stuff, you're going to get proteins get broken down to peptides, and then peptides get broken down to amino acids. But if you're not breaking the proteins down from peptides, these polypeptides, into singular amino acids, then your body can actually mount a bit of an immune response to these peptides. They can recognize
and it turns into ammonia and urea and sort of fermented products.
Bad breath. And then because the food's not broken down properly, then now bacteria are going to start to like ferment and consume these foods, and then gases like methane and hydrogen are going to get basically released. But but back to the vagus nerve quickly too. Like when the vagus nerve is damaged, say from the car crash or the footy knock from play footy or the punch in the head or whatever.
Yeah.
Then there's a valve called the sequel valve, which basically is soft from the large intestine to the small intestine. So then that valve doesn't shut properly.
Yeah.
Okay?
Gets lazy.
Yes. And now it's called translocation. So bacteria they migrate up into the small intestine where they shouldn't be in high amounts, like really low amounts, and there shouldn't be many bacteria in the small intestine. But now this ileocecal valve is broken because of the head knock, because the vagus nerve is damaged, so it's not communicating and shutting it properly. So now you're going to start to think things like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth are going to manifest, and then when that happens, you start to get malnourished, and you're not going to digest and absorb micronutrients, and then you become deficient, and then you start to get like gas, bloating, all these things start to manifest, and then basically it just gets worse and worse and worse. And all that can stem from a bad head knock.
Wow, man. And that's such an amazing vision of the entire thing. And is actually, I think it's fundamental, the understanding of the vagus nerve travels, I think it's, from up here all the way down to our pelvic floor, all the way through our gut. And it's like a big branching stem of nervous system stuff. So it's like a highway, really, of energy. And imagine if you've got a block on the highway somewhere, well, this motion, that it is in motion, right? Like we think, people say, oh, I'm sedentary or whatever, but like you've got so much movement happening inside of you, your intestines are moving, and they're trying to go through this, they call it peristaltic waves, which is like the movement of that digestive system, which is essentially run by the vagus nerve, allowing that movement to occur. And if you've got a neurological thing or some sort of stress activation or a head knock or an accident, you could be switched off here, and you might be eating the right supplements, the right diet and that sort of thing, but you've got a neurological disactivation.
Spot on.
So how do you approach that neurological level? Because it's not just as simple, say, to like, you can't eat a supplement for your vagus nerve, so to speak.
There's no supplement. No. There's no supplement. There's no sexy supplement to take to fix your vagus nerve. What you got to do to fix your vagus nerve, basically, is aggressive gargling.
Yep. That's really cool.
Yeah. So it's aggressive. So aggressive gargling. Like so there's cold. You can do like cold water showers that can stimulate it as well. Yeah. You can do like singing, humming, laughing as well. Yeah. But apparently the best tool for stimulating the vagus nerve and getting it back up and running and functioning properly is aggressive gargling until your eyes start to water.
Amazing. That's a really great tip there, Dougie.
Yeah, Dr. Datis Karazin from the United States. Check him out. He's incredible, and he's been one of my teachers, and he talks about this in his clinical practice a lot with the people that come in that are like sort of they're developing Alzheimer's disease, and because of the damaged vagus nerve, which is
very much Alzheimer's patients have a slow digestive system pretty much all the time, right?
Yep. They get like they're severely constipated. So why are they constipated? Because there's no motility. The motility is shut down. There's no movement. There's not much movement.
So why would someone get Alzheimer's from that? Let's just dive into that for the audience here, because a lot of people associate Alzheimer's with like all sorts of other crap. But what's going on here? Why would the gut and why would a slow, constipated gut be creating that?
Well, from what I've learned about Alzheimer's is that not all the time, but a big driver is actually poor gut health. So it's coming from the gut, and then it's traveling up the vagus nerve into the brain. Okay, and then I think it's called amyloid plaque. I think. I can't exactly remember. It starts to build up.
Beta
and it starts
amyloid.
to block it starts to block certain like dopamine receptor pathways in the brain, and then this is when like the tremors start to take place, or you might get like stiff and rigidity in one arm or something.
Yeah.
It's like that. But this is coming from the gastrointestinal tract up. That's what they've found. They did a study on mice when they mice had all the signs of developing Alzheimer's, that build up of the plaque, and then they actually cut the vagus nerve, and then and what they found was it slowed the whole process of the Alzheimer's developing down, because of the actual the connection from the gastrointestinal tract to the brain coming from there, which is like stimulating, I guess, pro-inflammatory protein signaling and release as well. So a lot that Dr. Hiskryson talks about it heaps, about it actually most likely coming from the gastrointestinal tract or gut health, which is fascinating.
It's fascinating. It needs to be common knowledge. Some of the things that I've seen in this department in terms of studies of people addressing Alzheimer's through clearing the constipation essentially have been from laxatives. So they've treated Alzheimer's using herbal laxatives like Cascara sagrada. So it's not, it's also nutritive to the gut. It's not just like a chemical that's going to make you shit your pants, because I don't think that, like, you're going to lose minerals and vitamins and everything like that. But Cascara sagrada was actually a herb used by Native Americans, and it's a purgative. It's a it moves your bowel. It's also restorative. It has sort of like some of those plant mucuses, like a slippery elm type of effect.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, and then another one apparently that can be quite good for the Alzheimer's is just the daily bitter tonic, something that's going to help the digestive tract.
Swedish bitters, that's a good one.
But making sure that we're moving, and if the bowel's not moving, ideally like twice or more a day, or one. If you're having a really great poo a day, that's fine too. But the science of poos and making sure that we are pooing right. How do we know what a good poo looks like, Dougie?
Well, what basically, when you've finished in the toilet, you should have that feeling of like that it's like empty. It's done, and it's obviously a nice texture. It's not obviously too soft, and it's not too hard. And it's a nice browny color, and it shouldn't be always rotten smelling. Like, it should be like smell like poo. Sometimes you can have really foul smelling poos, which is okay every now and then. Obviously your digestive tract's not going to be on point all the time, like we have stressful days, things happen, so if you have diarrhea every now and then, or your poo's not the greatest smelling poo every now and then, it's not like a big concern. If it's happening every day, that's a bit more of a worrying thing. But as long as you're, like Asher said, as long as you're passing one good one or at least two a day, that's what you want, that's what you need.
So many normal standards for health that I think the modern world has let slip of as their importance.
It's underrated, a good poo.
Now, for those of you who don't know, Life Rocks is not just a podcast. It is an education foundation centered around connecting children to the magic of nature through earth sciences. As a self-funded foundation and startup, we are constantly seeking support so that we can continue our great work. So if you feel called to donate to Life Rocks, please head down to the show notes and find the relevant donation link. We accept regular money as well as cryptocurrencies. We greatly appreciate you, our Life Rocks community. Now, back to the show.
What else is helping our paralysis from your perspective?
So the movement of food through the digestive tract. Just being in a parasympathetic state when you're eating food, whatever it is, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Not trying to get your stress levels down, not trying to eat in like a designated work area. Maybe have an area where you actually go to eat, especially if you work in an office job. Because like the body sort of knows when you're in like a, say, working at a desk, and that desk is associated with like high stress because that's where you work. Eating in that same area, the body's going to elicit the same sort of response, stressful
That's
response.
a good point.
So if you just go away from that area and go sit somewhere outside, or just on a park bench, or just somewhere where it's not work, then that's going to have a profound effect on your digestion. Huge effect. Something so small like that can have such a massive effect for someone. You don't have to have like massive amounts of supplements and different things to actually improve your gut health for some certain people. Like, you just have that little adjustments, like going away from their desk area and eating in a parasympathetic state, which is rest and digest. Simple,
So simple.
Overlooked, and we need to bring that sort of these little mini things back into our daily life.
Yeah, I like how you've mentioned a couple of times here that there's no sexy supplements, and then there's no supplements that are going to help that per se. And the simplicity of doing just real lifestyle changes, real diet changes. I think that most people are having way too many supplements that are crap. And it's just like, if you've got a leaky gut and you're eating a bunch of supplements, you are wasting a lot of money. And you're probably screwing up your gut more. Now, there's something a lot of other people don't know in Australia, including most health practitioners. I'm just going to put this out here right now, is that there is silica, and there's microcrystalline cellulose, and there's nanoparticles, and there's colors, and there's gums in most of the supplements that are being sold out there, including metagenics, including herbs of gold, including what else have we got? Bioceuticals. All of the mainstream naturopathic, meant to be healthy alternatives are actually all owned by big pharma. Okay, that's one lesson. Another lesson is anything under 2% weight of volume on the supplement doesn't need to be listed in the label, and they're filling everybody full of nanoparticles. I'm talking nano sand here, and bleached wood dust that comes from the sawmill industry is going in these so-called health supplements. And I can't even call them now and ask for their fact sheets unless I'm a licensed professional, which shows you how much of a small boys club it is once you start trying to peer under the hood. I've had Metagenics yell me off the phone for questioning and even asking to get what is in the 2% weight volume.
Wow.
And if people want to find out, go to TGA, Therapeutic Goods Administration, and put in whatever supplement you think is good into there and see if you can pull up a fact sheet and look at all the other non-listed ingredients that people are pumping into their bodies. So that's my rant on the supplement industry in Australia. I think people need to get wise. I think most health changes happen through significant diet or lifestyle changes first. And then there's a bunch of supplements that I think are really awesome, but they're pure powders and liquids and very carefully sourced.
Yeah, you're right. I should dial in your lifestyle. Dial it in. Sleep, exercise, all that, breathing, Yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know that about them companies. I know them companies. I didn't know that. No, that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's something I'm really passionate about. I've written a couple of essays on it, and very thoroughly put together the research. I think nanoparticles is an unknown health issue and is super irritating to the gut, especially. Mostly because if you imagine, as we've been talking about the leaky gut scenario, if you've got a healthy gut, the villi, they're coating the inside, and they're like these sort of hairs, if I'm not mistaken. And they allow the distribution of nutrients, or they absorb the nutrients out of the gut. But if we've been eating a diet that's sort of really harsh, we've been getting infections, we've not been getting peristalsis, this sort of starts to die off, if I'm not mistaken, and becomes a little bit deforested. If you imagine it's like, like a little forest. And then that baldness on the inner of our digestive tube is essentially what like a leaky gut is. And then food particles or stuff from our diet starts to leak through that membrane, end up in the blood. Now our blood and our immune system's got all of this stuff to deal with because, we're not meant to be having food particles and stuff in the blood. Is that kind of on the right track there?
Yes, that's where the immune system starts to get activated. Yeah.
Yeah, is because it's the immune system's basically trying to deal with the proteins that have ended up in the blood as undigested particles. So it's like a foreign body.
Yeah, it's like that they mount like an immune response towards it, it's like an antigen, so it's foreign to the body. So they start to basically the B cells.
Yeah.
They tag it and then for destruction to get rid of it, and immunoglobulins and stuff like that.
Good. Yes.
Yeah. And this is how your immune system becomes like hyperactive, and if you're like if you're like susceptible to developing like an autoimmune condition, this is where like autoimmune can come into it as well, and then that's a whole other kettle of fish.
Okay, yeah, that's another one topic that people have really got it back to front on is, hey, autoimmune, because they think that their immune system's attacking their body. But it's not. It's attacking all of the built up crap that's ended up in their body through diet and lifestyle.
Yeah, their body, basically, a simple one to just say now is like, when you're like gluten sensitive, or say if you have like celiac disease or you're gluten sensitive in your body, it basically has an immune response towards the gluten molecule, the gluten protein.
What would some of those immune reactions be to gluten that people are getting?
Well, that's like brain fog, digestive upset, diarrhea. The big ones are like neurological issues. Okay. Yeah, it can really mess up the brain and trigger basically what gluten does as well is that the other gliadin molecule in gluten, gliadin, it basically stimulates the tight junctional protein in your gut called zonulin, and it basically like stimulates it and opens it up, and then allows for the gut to become more permeable, which is like, it's normal for your gut to be a little bit permeable every now and then. It's meant to close back up. But if you're consuming gluten daily, like, there's no way that your gut's going to heal back up. It's going to always be permeable, and this is why gluten is a big problem for most people. And then if you're sensitive to the gluten protein, then you've actually got other tissues in your body that has a very, very, very similar structure to the gluten protein, which is a part of your brain called the cerebellum. So if you've got like a immune response towards the gluten protein, and then these B cells are floating around looking for the gluten protein to get it out of the body, to tag it, to get rid of it, and then these B cells, they swim past the cerebellum, and they swim past and go, oh, I recognize that's very similar to the structure of gluten. Let's tag it. And then they tag it for destruction because it's very similar in amino acid profile. Like, the structure of it is very similar. And then the T cells swim past when they're basically active, which is the killer cells. They destroy the tissue, they kill it, they get rid of it. They swim past, they go, oh, that's tagged for the gluten protein, which what we're looking for. Let's start to attack that tissue, that organ. So that part of the brain starts to get damaged and broken down, and then this is like, obviously, this is basically autoimmune. So the gluten can, if you eat gluten, and then it just turns it on so much more, and then the reactions are huge, and it's just it's crazy how this is. It's called molecular mimicry. So it's like, basically, tissues and organs are very similar in structure to certain food groups. They have the amino acid sequence is very, very close, and the body can't differentiate, and it just basically starts to tag things and attack it. And the thyroid gland cops it hard too. But that's a big problem nowadays. Look up molecular mimicry, and you'll find a lot on that.
It's a fascinating topic, and I love the way that you break that down there. The cerebellum being involved in motor movement, coordination, postural control, like the subconscious postural pathways.
All that movement
like
sort of stuff.
Learning, sort of cognitive, holistic learning.
Yep.
I've heard that the consumption of gluten actually limits the blood flow to the neocortex of the brain for up to 6 hours in certain individuals if they get an inflammatory response. So, if you cut off blood flow to your decision-making brain and the logic centers of the brain.
Yep.
I think that's fascinating that the gluten protein has similar structures under this
they go in numbers, so you'll see a lot. You have the structure of it, and it'll be like A, B, B, C, D, C, D, A, B. I can't remember how many letters there are.
Yeah.
And then you'll have the gluten protein, and you have the cerebellum, and they'll be they'll almost line up. There'll only be a few different numbers, letters, and that's it.
And this sort of thing happens in the body where so iodine in the body is very similar to other halogens like chlorine and bromine. So if we've got chlorine or bromine coming in from the shower or whatever commercial bread products, that's going to displace the iodine in our body as a molecule. And this is the same sort of thing we're talking about here,
yeah? Yep. Really
cool stuff.
Crazy. And that's the state of what some people are in nowadays. Or or it's called cross reactivity. So there's two terms for it, but that's the state. Yeah. And it happens with certain bacteria as well, like Staphylococcus.
Yes, Staphylococcus.
Well. Yeah, it can happen with it, and it happens with many things, So, and there's a lot of different food groups out there that are in structure to some certain tissues. So, but I'll just say gluten. I talk about gluten because that's a very hot topic, and it's common, and it's one I've learned about in depth as well. So,
yeah, and I mean, let's talk a little bit about the history of gluten. Because it is a part of the human diet. It has been a part of the human diet for thousands of years. What's changed with modern forms of foods that's made it a lot harder to digest? What can we do if we are going to eat gluten, or are there any forms of gluten that are worthwhile? And is it a thing of timing of your perspective? Is it a total ban? Is it a context-driven thing? Like if someone's healthy enough, they can manage it. What are your thoughts around this sort of thing?
Well, I can now and then. We have a baker here in Long. They're organic baker, and we every now and then treat myself every couple of weeks at the farmer's market with a croissant, which is and I eat it and I feel really fine on it. That's probably because I've done a lot of gut healing work as well. But I'm not like a ban on gluten. No, don't eat gluten. Stay away from gluten. I'm not like that. I think you should stay away from gluten if you're participating in a leaky gut protocol, or you're trying to optimize your health in any way. It's best to avoid it, because you're not going to be able to heal your gut lining if you're still consuming gluten. Okay, so that's just a given. So staying away from it, doing some healing, and then coming back and enjoying proper fermented sourdough ancient grains or native grains. So looking for like something that's if they use the term native and organic, or ancient and organic, something that's just clean and obviously made with love, not some shitty loaf of white bread that you buy from Tip Top, that you buy from the supermarket. They add gluten to that to make it really like fluffy and
gelatinous.
And obviously the glide molecule is the really problematic one. So when you have like a proper fermented sourdough, the glide content comes right down. So it's not as active, and good quality bread's actually healthy for you. It's good for you.
So I had some bacon and eggs with spelt sourdough just before this, interview. If I go too hard on the sourdough, it'll back me up. If I have a bit throughout the week, totally fine. Feels really good.
Know your limits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Khorasan bread, spelt bread. And even if it's organic wheat and it's been made really well, sometimes it's super digestible. So I think, experiment with those types of bread products. Some of the ancient grain varieties actually have less aggressive forms of gluten and less amounts of gluten.
Yeah. The thing is, the gluten tree, it's massive. There's so many different gluten proteins. I've learned about it before, and it's hard to get your head around. There's so many different alpha, gamma, there's so many different proteins within the gluten. It's like the trees. It's like they branch off into all these different proteins. So you could actually be reacting to a couple of them proteins, or one, or you might, you know what I mean? So.
I think as well, it's a complex structure of proteins, isn't it? It's not like other proteins either.
Very, very,
I've heard that it's actually one of the most complex protein structures in nature. It's also found on every continent, and it could be comparable to its complexity as something like casein, which is actually used to drive an infant's immune system to another level. And because of this, if I'm describing what gluten is to people, I'll say it's the heaviest weight in the food gym. And I mean that to say of like, unless you've got the capacity to lift the weight of gluten, it'll weigh you down, it'll break you down, it'll hurt you.
Yes.
But if you've got that digestive capacity enough to lift the gluten thing, you should, because it could push you up a bit as well. And I thought maybe in nature, it's actually, because the autumn time is when you get the seed heads of the grain. So maybe it's designed in nature to actually appear in autumn time when you're sort of in peak health after the summer, like peak light, peak nutrients. And then in autumn, you have a bit of that to push your immune system up to the next levels for the winter.
You could be onto something. Exactly. Spot on, man. Exactly. So utilizing it and eating it, and listening to your body, it's what you need to do, so it's good for your gut microbiome, like fermented sourdough, so that has a positive effect on your overall health and your immune system. So obviously stay away from it if you're celiac and you really react to it, stay away from it.
If you got thyroid issues, if you got gut issues, if you got energy issues, if you're fatigued, stay away from it.
Stay away from it. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Hey, Dougie, I want you to tell us a bit about your program that you're launching. This is a program for tradies specifically.
Yes, it is. Yep. It's a program for hardworking, busy tradespeople. I say tradespeople because it's not, I didn't design it just for men. It's for women. It's for women as well. Like if you're a woman and you're a tradie, and you want to learn about your diet choices and heal your gut lining and get your bloods analyzed and level up in your health, it's for you as well. So I've designed this Tradies Health Program. I've been thinking about this for ages now.
Because you're a stonemason, just to contextualize this for people.
I'm a stonemason, but I work on site 5 days a week. I have my own business. So it's busy. And just this morning I was up and I was out the door at 5, I think it was about 5:20 I left, so early, so you gotta it's easy to slip into bad habits and stuff like that when you're on the way to work or just being at work. So I've designed this program for busy tradies that want to optimize their health, level up, get better productivity at work, just feel good, have long lasting energy, no energy crashes throughout the day, have their digestive health functioning really good, and then this will have a knock on from them to their family as well, their household. It's not just us. They can, I say to my clients, that I'll be teaching about this. Had a few calls with them already. I said, it's not you're not just going to benefit from this. Your whole family will benefit from it.
Yes.
You know, you can
Water flows
teach them these
downhill.
nice habits. Yeah, you can teach them these awesome habits about nutrition, and it's just going to have a knock-on effect. So, yeah, this program is going to be awesome. It's like I said, just designed for busy tradies that don't know what to do. They always keep stopping in and reaching for the ultra processed shitty foods.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be it's a program that's designed for education, blood chemistry, symptom assessment. It's going to have all that in it. It's going to be an amazing program to optimize your health.
That is really awesome, Dougie. Is this a group thing or a one-on-one container?
This is going to be like a one-on-one call. We're going to have my clients every fortnight. We're going to have a call. But we're going to have another. Our first call will be about the bloods and the symptom assessment and the protocol, what we're going to do with that, and then we're going to then the next 3 calls are going to be educational, just bringing a lot of awareness around better food choices. Like even when you go to a service station, you can make good choices. Like when I drive home sometimes and I've had a huge day and I forgot to bring maybe something. Oh, I didn't have enough lunch, or I didn't bring anything to eat on the way home. I'll stop in, I'll get a can of coconut water, and I'll get a packet of beef jerky if I'm hungry, which you can find good. You can find good quality. I found Barbell, which is a really clean kangaroo and beef mixture, which has got no crap in it, no gluten in it, and there's a healthy meal that you can either reach for that, which is going to be positive for your health, or you can just go to the Bay Marine and get a pie and a can of Coke, and then off you go, and then the feeling of fatigue or mental health issues just keeps going, and because you keep reaching for the poor option when you can actually just go to the left a little bit and go, right, I'm actually going to make a good choice here and get some beef jerky and a can of coconut water, which you're going to hydrate you. It's got your electrolytes, potassium, magnesium, and you're going to get your protein hit, which is very filling, muscle building and recovery after work. So there's these things that you need to get your head around and start to make small changes like that.
Yeah. So awesome, man. And there's such a bad culture in the tradie thing of the petrol station, eating out of petrol stations.
Yeah.
I will walk into a petrol station. There is nothing. There's not one thing in that entire petrol station that I consider food. Maybe coconut water, maybe like a fruit juice.
Yeah.
It's pretty shocking. And
even on site, Asher, like I've worked on so many job sites, and I can't remember ever coming across someone that is sitting down eating a healthy meal.
Yes.
It's
ubiquitous across the trades. You know, I was the same in landscaping. I'd always be bringing my lunch, like, you know, fruit and dates and meat, and I'd have raw eggs on site. I'd be cracking raw eggs into my mouth.
Yeah, the exact same. I didn't have lunch yesterday at work, so I went down and bought a carton of good quality free range eggs and cracked a heap of them into my mouth and drank them.
There you go. And this is the sort of stuff that's, you know, going to help you to build a body that's, you know, that you're going to want to live in.
And the mind as well, you know, like they're so interconnected. You know, you want to have good mental health as well. Dial in your nutrition.
Yes. You know? Yeah. And all those chemicals and all of those fillers and emulsifiers and stuff that's clogging up your gut and giving your liver a hard time. That's putting pressure on your mind. That's putting pressure on your psyche. That's putting pressure on your day. That's putting pressure on your relationships. And it's subtle. It's subtle too. So some of these tradies that I know that do the whole Powerade sausage roll scenario, the amount of time they have off work, sick, you know, fights with their partners and stuff. I think it's a lot of it's all driven here, you know.
Yep. Poor relationships. Yeah. And on top of that, these hard-working tradies, they're eating shitty foods throughout the day. They're not sleeping well, but then they go to work and now they're exposed to spray paints. They're like tin can spray. They're exposed to heavy glues. We're exposed to like cements. We're exposed
particle damage.
Yeah, we're exposed to so many chemicals on site, and we touch things all the time. We're always getting shit on us.
Super toxic industry.
Yeah, a lot of microplastics. So, like, what chance does their body have, especially when they get older? That's why I've met a lot of people of recent, not a lot, but like a few people of recently that have developed some serious health issues. For people that and they're only in their 60s and early 70s. So
this stuff builds up over a lifetime of work. So you know, super awesome that you've taken charge of this part of your life. Just back on those particles. So nanoparticles, right, are very much a thing in our environment now. I've had people come to me who have severe lung damage from breathing in fibro stuff from walls, like dry dust. I've had clients come to me who've had particle silica damage from implants that they'd had, you know, and the bags burst, and now suddenly you've got liquid silica all through your body. And just even in the things of the supplements where they're putting sand and wood dust, right? So what digestive capacity do we have to digest sand or wood dust? Do we have any ability?
That stuff shouldn't be in your gastrointestinal tract. That's gonna once again, trigger immune responses. I'm not sure how well. I mean, I'm pretty sure that they find particles in people's stool. So obviously it's not going in and breaking down to basically hydrolyzing into nothing. It's passing through the body and coming out the other end. And when that's going through as well, that's probably getting lodged in certain epithelial cells. It's probably getting lodged in tissue and organs, which then the body will be like, what's this in here? And then start to attack it once again. Potentially. I've never really read much on that, but just thinking about that makes sense to me. You know, like why plastic? Should plastic be building up in our bodies? Probably not.
Absolutely not. Except apparently we're all eating about, I mean, I reckon you and I aren't eating 2 tablespoons a day, but apparently the most common person living in a city is eating upwards of a tablespoon of microplastics a day in the water, in the food, in the air.
Yeah. Well, look at most people. They drink out of hot cups that are like plastic or plastic lids, thermoses that have plastic lids that leach BPA and BPS into the liquid, and then the
shampoos have plastic. The body lotions have plastic. Plastic, fantastic.
Exactly.
So here's something that might interest you, Dougie, is actually in some of these studies on particles, nanoparticles, we haven't evolved with nanoparticles in our environment because we've only had the industrialized power to create nanoparticles since machine-based tools. So prior to machines that could grind and turn things into dust, actually the nanoparticles in the environment came from volcanic events, so volcanoes exploding or meteorites crashing into the earth. That was the 2 forms of hard nano, which means rock dust, sand dust, ash dust. All of that takes a lot of force to create. And then the only other nanos that would be in our environment would have been sugars and microproteins, which you call soft nano, because that can be absorbed by a system. But these hard nanoparticles that we haven't had evolutionary history with, they have asbestos-like properties because they're so fine, but also the immune system doesn't know they're there. So the B cells will walk right past these particles because they've never been trained to assess them because they're so small, and they'll float in and out of cells. And okay, you know, by the time you're 20, it might not be bad, but by the time you're 50 or 60, if you've been accumulating these particles that your body literally doesn't even know how to get out, because they're so small. Chemists have realized that anything taken to a nano level now has a quantum way of operating in the universe. So if you've got iron at a normal particle size, it's going to respond normally to all the chemicals, and chemists will be reliably able to say, oh yeah, if I add an acid to iron, it'll do this, or if I add this to iron, it'll do this. But nanized iron now has these quantum levels of potential when it relates to other chemicals. So anyway, I find all this stuff really fascinating, and I'm thinking, how do we start getting particles out of the body? Because we're exposed. How do we get plastics out of the body, you know?
You have to have your I guess your glutathione levels up as well, which is a master antioxidant. All these antioxidants, and you have to just have your, which once again comes back to the gut as well. Like, you need to have a healthy gut so you can move through stool, you can pass out whatever toxins have built up. You can get rid of that as well. Obviously, you want your liver to be functioning correctly too. Like, you just want, like, if your body's not functioning optimally, well, yeah, you're going to have sluggish pathways that are involved in getting rid of chemicals and toxins and turning them into water soluble as well, so they can pass through the body. Because that's what the microbiome has been shown to be involved in. Is basically turning chemicals into like water soluble type forms, so then they can be excreted out the body. So if that doesn't happen, because maybe there's damage or there's deficiencies in minerals and vitamins that are involved in certain pathways like methylation, then how are you going to move these things through? Well, you're not. You're just going to let them build up and build up and build up. And then, like you said, you get to an age where it catches up with you. That's why preventative health is super important. And this is what doctors don't do. They wait until the blood markers are way out of range, and then they go, let's do something. Instead of going, hey, you've got your bloods here, and in 2021, this marker was here. And now in 2022, this marker it's a little bit more elevated. And in 2023, it's going up again. What's going on? They won't pick up that and go, oh, maybe this person, we should start to work on this to potentially bring that down. But no, they'll wait until the marker's fully out of range. Now let's do something.
Yeah. And what is it? It's a drug.
Yeah.
Or it's a surgery, or it's something.
It's a drug. That's how it works in the medical system. That's exactly how it works.
Yeah.
It's sad and it's scary, but that's what this is why me and Asher do what we do with passion, and we love it. And I've dedicated so many hours and so much money to leveling up my health and courses and hours of reading and you name it, so.
And we got a lot more ahead of us. Hey,
we got a lot more ahead of us, mate.
Yeah.
I found a good tip for new dads that want to say if they're interested in health as well, and they're studying or they're whatever they're doing, is I take my son in the car for naps on the weekends and after I finish work as well, on his nap times, and he'll fall asleep straight away, and I'll be able to study for 2 hours straight.
That's awesome.
I can do that. I do that Saturday and Sunday, where he has two naps a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and I'll take him in the car, and I'll sometimes get 4 hours a day, Saturday, Sunday. So that's 8 hours all up over the whole weekend. I get to study and learn and grow in my business and in my knowledge on health.
That's epic.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great. When I discovered doing that with him, I was like, I said to my partner, my wife, I was like, this is awesome. Like, I'm keeping doing this. So
just as the body needs nutrients to thrive, the mind needs projects and things to learn and study and grow, so that we're taking on new perspectives, and it feels like it has a life as well. And then also the spiritual aspect of our lives, like what have we identified as our values? What are we working towards? What are our goals? What are our ethics? Who do we want to be? That keeps the spirit alive. And then, so these are the sort of levels that we think people need to be working on and taking responsibility for, because I think when we look at the doctor-based model of like, oh, come, we'll take responsibility for you. We'll test you and probe you and analyze you. And then we'll say, and here's this product. And now that's all your responsibilities done. Like, it's all disease is genetic. Like, oh, it wasn't your fault. Like, it's nothing to do with lifestyle. All of these things strip responsibility away from the person. As where like, well, you know, if you actually take responsibility for your health, you'll get given good things. So
yes, doors open up when you become healthy and clear-minded and have a well-functioning body and you have energy.
Yeah. Hey, Dougie, this conversation's been really awesome and time has flown off the ball.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm really grateful for having you here today. Love to do it again, mate, sometime.
Yep.
Where can people find you, connect to your work, and jump on board with your program for busy tradies, mums and dads? My
business is on Instagram. It's _rock-solid-health. You'll find me on there. Feel free to message me with any questions you have. I love it, so I'll answer them, and we can chat or just follow me, whatever. So I'm on Instagram _rock-solid-health. And if you're in the area and you need any stone walls built, I'm on Facebook on the Stone Scene Northumbria as well. So
great. Where are you based? You're down in Geelong?
Based in Geelong, yeah,
Victoria.
Geelong, Victoria. So
epic. Stonemasonry is a very cool trade. I've always respected the level of care and effort and everything that goes into stonemason. I think that's such a cool trade. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And guys out there, as the audience, if you have enjoyed this show, please like and subscribe and send it around, because it helps to grow what we're doing at Life Rocks. We are a not-for-profit. We're very much run by the engagement of our audience and our peers and the community at large. So jump on there, subscribe, like, help us out. Do the same for Dougie. And we will see you next time with some awesome content at Life Rocks. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening to the Life Rocks podcast. If you enjoyed the show, then leave us a review. We'll be back soon with more inspiring content, and in the meantime, remember, life rocks.